We're going to determine the intervals on which this function to the right is increasing, decreasing, and constant. So remember, when you see a graph like this, we're going to go from left to right. Okay, it's like we are a little person and we are walking in this direction. And as we're walking, we want to know what's happening to the graph. So if I look for the leftmost part, I see this graph, and as it goes from left to right, it is doing this, and this is increasing. Okay, so increasing, 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 all the way up until bonk, right until there. Now, once I hit this maximum right here, then I'm going to start decreasing, and I decrease all the way until bonk, right there, and then I'll increase again, bonk, and then I will decrease from here on out. Okay, so as far as this little guy walks, from this point on, it's all decreasing. All right, so let's look at the intervals. The green part is the increasing, and we can see that this thing starts increasing all the way from negative infinity on the left-hand side, and it's going to increase all the way until this point right here. Now remember that we're only using x values. Okay, we're only using domain for the interval. So all the way from negative infinity until here, we have an increase. Okay, and the x value there is 0. Now, we have another part that is also increasing, and that is from here all the way to here. So the other interval where we have it, the graph increasing, is from 1 to 2. Okay, starts at 1, ends at 2. Now, your question is probably going to say, give the interval separated by a comma. All right, if it asks for interval notation, you might put a U in between for union, but your question is probably going to say, separate your answers by a comma. And that's it. It's not increasing anywhere else. Now notice also that at these points, at this maximum, it is neither increasing nor decreasing. Okay, this is a transition point. So to be increasing, it would have to be lower on the left and higher on the right. And that's not the case. It's not increasing. To be decreasing, it would have to be higher on the left and lower on the right. And that is not the case. So at this point, can you say if this point right here is actually increasing or decreasing? No, it's neither. What about this point? That's neither. And what about this point? That is also neither. So that's why we're going to use parentheses here instead of brackets, because it is not increasing at 1, it is not increasing at 2, it is not increasing at 0, because those are transition points. Now let's look at where this graph is decreasing. So we can see if we are walking from left to right, that we start decreasing right here at 0, and we are going to decrease until here, until 1. So the first decreasing interval is from 0, starts at 0, ends at 1. Once again, parentheses. Our next decreasing interval starts here, which the x value of that is at 2, and as we're walking to the right, it decreases forever and ever and ever. Okay, so even though this is going down to negative infinity, our interval is this right here. We're only taking x values. And where does this end up going? It ends up going to infinity. So our next interval is from 2 to infinity. 2, infinity. And it's going to ask you to put your answers separated by a comma. And then the third part here is asking you for where this graph is constant. And this graph is not constant anywhere. So remember, to be constant, at a point you have to look to the left and it has to be exactly the same. and then you have to look to the right, and it has to be exactly the same, okay, with no increase or decrease. And we have no points like that. Even if you want to look at these blue points, you say, well, what's to the left? Is it the same? No, it's not. It's lower. What about to the right? Is it the same? No, it's not. It's lower.